Don't skip to the end of the video. Don't do it. I'm warning you, it's been booby-trapped. You're gonna regret skipping. So just don't do it, alright? Enjoy the video. It's gonna be a fun ride. Fighting games have all types of characters, but some definitely require less skill than others. And then some characters are just... yeah, you get the idea. So today's tier list is all about the Braindead characters. Make sure to not take it personally if you enjoy any of these characters. I love playing Natara, and I'm not gonna apologize for my random dive kicks. Plus, even the most Braindead characters can still be played with skill and finesse. So today's video is just a generalization. But even so, it's all for entertainment and fun. So without any further ado, let's begin. For today's video, I'm not gonna go from top to bottom or vice versa. I'm just gonna go from left to right. So first up is Ashura, severely dumb. Real quick, keep in mind that a top tier character does not always mean they're brain dead. In fact, sometimes it can be the opposite. A bottom tier character can be the most brain dead. They're not always connected, which is also why Ashura is going right here. Yes, she is a top 10 character, but she's not quite brain dead. There is some thought process to how she plays because she has the two different forms that you switch between. Next up is Baraka. He's going in autopilot. Let's be real, all Baraka players are basically the same. They get the knockdown, then go for the overhead or the low, and then just rinse and repeat. Cameo characters keep them safe, then they go for another knockdown and set up the mix all over again. Not to mention that low breaks armor, so it's really brain dead oki, which is just a fancy term for wake up pressure. Next up we have Garrus, not brain dead. In fact, he's one of the most complicated characters in the entire game. Havoc, same thing, honestly, not brain dead at all. This man struggles for every single win. You gotta think outside the box to win with Havoc. No boy, Johnny Cage, definitely going in the brain dead category with all those plus frames. Now keep in mind, there's levels to every character, so yes, at high level, Johnny Cage does require some skill. You gotta optimize those combos and convert off every throw correctly. The timing can be tricky, but for everybody else, he's quite brain dead. He's plus on everything. Next up is Kenshi, barely thinking, and allow me to explain. At the start of the game, he would be in the not brain dead because players were still mastering his block strings, his mix-up pressure, all that stuff, but now they've got it memorized and are almost on autopilot. They go for that dumb 4-2-2 string, and if it hits, they freeze you, summon their spirit, and then just go for the same mixes and pressure over and over again. It's not quite autopilot. It's very close, but right now they're still barely thinking. Next up we have Katana, also in the barely thinking category, and that's because there's two ways to play Katana. If the opponent's in range, you go for the same two whiff punishes over and over again, the same pokes, you get the idea, but if the opponent's a bit further away, it's the same 2 or 3 projectiles over and over again. So not quite autopilot because there's two different playstyles to switch between, but it's very close to being autopilot. Next up is Scorpion, barely thinking, but only because the new Cameo characters really help this character a lot. Before Pharah and Chameleon, Scorpion did actually have to think more, but now that he has a way to stay safe on every mix and kill you in 2 touches, this character's getting pretty brain dead, but not quite brain dead. Go for the teleport or go for the far-reaching back 3. If it lands, just convert for a full combo. If it's blocked, Pharah's Cameo assist is safe anyway, so who cares, just go for it again. Okay, next up is Kung Lao, autopilot. Like severely autopilot. If he's knocked down, he goes for the safe wake up every time. If it lands, he gets a full combo with the Cameo. He goes for YOLO dive kick. If it lands, he can Cameo or find other ways to convert. He's a very autopilot kind of character, extremely straightforward, and at this point it's been perfected down to a science. Li Mei, not brain dead. This character has gotten several buffs, but even so, you have to think about every single choice you make with these characters because nothing she does is foolproof. There's either a gap, or it's unsafe on block, or it's severely minus, or it can leave you open on whiff. You get the idea. Yes, she's gotten a lot stronger, but you still have to think when you're playing her. Next up is Liu Kang, severely dumb. This guy's zoning is so cheesy. His whiff punishes are also really cheesy. He combos off throw easier than almost any character in the game. In fact, I'm considering putting him in brain dead tier, but for now I'll just keep him in severely dumb. Melina, autopilot, and I can say this because I'm a Melina main myself, okay? I love Melina, I love Natara, I main several characters, but with Melina, it's the same 2 or 3 strings over and over again. If it's blocked, I just stop right there, but if it lands, I go for my 52% damage combos. Natara, severely dumb, almost brain dead, and it's so funny how we got here, because when the game first came out, Natara required more strategy and timing than almost any character, especially when combined with Kung Lao, because that was the the only cameo that worked for her and actually gave her openings and mix-ups, counter zoning, all that stuff. Back then, Nitara did require skill, but now after all the buffs and the updates and also Pharah, this character has become extremely brain dead. It's the same two strings up close, and if they land, just do a 50-60% damage combo. And if the opponent tries to run from you, just YOLO dive kick. The meter burn is safe on block, and the other version can be saved with a cameo. Raiden, autopilot, 110%. Same 2 or 3 strings over and over again, go into the lightning for chip damage, then keep yourself safe with a cameo. That's how 99% of Raidens play. Even at the high level, that's pretty much what they're doing. Now thankfully there is hope, because I see some top players experimenting with some new mix-ups and some new openings with certain cameos, so that's cool, but still, most Raiden players are doing the same 2 or 3 strings into his lightning for chip damage, then keeping themselves safe with a cameo. Rain, not brain dead at all. This guy's move list is massive, and as a result, he can do all types of play, which means as the player yourself, you have to keep switching your game plan up, right? If the opponent's further away, use these 5 or 6 moves. If the opponent's closer, use these 5 or 6 moves. You get the idea. The character has a lot of different things to juggle and a lot of responsibilities, especially if you make use of his portals. Now, with all that said, is he top tier? Yes, absolutely. But as mentioned earlier, sometimes a top tier character does not mean they're brain dead. Sometimes they do require thinking, and Rain is one of those characters. Oh boy, but then we have Reiko, possibly the most brain dead character in the entire game at most levels of play. If you're competing in tournaments, then you're gonna have to work. But for everybody else, let's be real, that projectile is ridiculous. Those plus frames up close are ridiculous. The command grab combos, oh my god. This character can do the same 2 things or 3 things for most of the matches and win a majority of the time. Reptile, not brain dead. This guy requires so much thinking, it's actually crazy. If you want to win with Reptile, especially at the competitive level, not even tournament, just like higher ranks of Combat League, then you're gonna have to work and think outside the box all the time. General Shao, I love playing this character, but even I must admit, he's barely thinking. Let's be real, 2-2 and neutral. 2-2 and neutral, one of the best pokes in the entire game. General Shao has great walk speed. If it lands, he converts for a full combo and then goes for his mix-ups, and that's it. Even he's not thinking about the mix-up, by the way. He just picks which one he wants to do. Because with the axe down, all of his mix-ups are safe anyway, so you don't have to think, just go for one of them. Alright, Sindel, autopilot. 100% autopilot. Now that said, the execution is required there, so a bit tougher to use than some characters in this tier, but even so, it's still autopilot. Sindel goes for the hit confirm, screams in your face, then goes for the hard to blockable, which if done correctly is completely safe for her, and she can take control of your cameo and make her own cameo come back faster. So yeah, she's kinda brain dead. Even though it does take practice to master these loops, once you have them down, there's almost no risk and a very big reward, so yes, she's 100% autopilot. Smoke, now here's an interesting one. He could be not brain dead if the opponent's actually smart, but let's be real, a majority of players are pretty YOLO when it comes to Smoke. They're doing those random teleports, they're doing the risky overheads, all that stuff in neutral, so they're thinking, but just barely. He's definitely not autopilot, because if you make one mistake, he can die from how unsafe he is, so you do have to think a little bit, but just not a ton. He definitely could fit in the not brain dead tier with some players, but if we're going off a generalization here, I think most players are just barely thinking. Sub-Zero, not brain dead. Everybody agrees, yes, he keeps getting buffs here and there, and I would not be shocked if in the Chaos Reigns update he does get a bit of an overhaul, but as of right now, you have to really think with this character for every single win, especially above the casual level. Now with that said, for the record, I don't think this character is bad. Some people think Sub-Zero is bad. I am a staunch Sub-Zero defender. I think he is mid-tier at worst, but even so, he requires thinking to win. Tanya, ooh, king of the brain dead. Queen, I should say, actually, but my point is the most brain dead character in the game. Let's be real. Up close, it's the same string over and over again. And it's the easiest hit confirm in the game. It has staggers as well. The combo damage is not crazy, but it's good enough. And even on block, Goro keeps you safe every single time, or can even make you plus if the opponent doesn't know what they're doing. But don't forget about that wake up, because Tanya has arguably the best wake up in the entire game. Not only because Goro can keep it safe, but because she travels forward so quickly that it even catches opponents trying to retreat, like Sub-Zero hiding behind his eyes clone. It does does not work. Tanya destroys everybody on Wake Up, and Goro keeps her safe. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. Ooh, Darius, our first cameo, and for this tier list, we actually are going to include the cameos. Darius is in the not brain dead tier. This guy is actually complicated. There's so many different reasons to use each move in a given situation. Do you want the combo, or do you want the setup? Do you want the mix, or do you want the guaranteed block pressure, or do you want to build your meter, because he can do that now too. Darius has some really interesting stuff tied to each assist now, and it makes him very interesting. But then we have Goro. Oh man, brain dead. Even though this character on paper has a lot of new stuff and creative ways to play him, nobody's doing that. Let's be real, they're using him to keep their cameos safe or to extend combos and go for a cheap mix-up. Almost nobody is using the more advanced stuff, even though it's there. Goro just keeps you safe. That's what he does. Raise the roof, keep me safe on block. That's pretty much it. Motaro, barely thinking. He's not quite in the not brain dead tier because he's used for the same 2 or 3 situations, and you do it without thinking. Am I far away? YOLO teleport. Did I do something unsafe? YOLO teleport. Is my opponent trying to zone? Use the counter zoning tool. Is my opponent trying to run away? Use the triple projectile. He's got so many tools, so in theory, he requires a bit of thinking, but not a ton. Serena, brain dead. Absolutely brain dead. On paper, she has some creative utility, but let's be real, everyone plays her for the combo extension, and that's it. Everyone's playing Serena for the combo extension and the meter drain, maybe, but that's it. Despite her having like 10 different assists, it's the same 2 moves getting used, let's be real. Cyrax, severely dumb. On paper, he should be in the not brain dead tier because he has so much utility and so many different moves, but let's be real, a majority of players use him to keep themselves safe on block or to extend combos, and that's it. Very rarely is anybody doing the bomb setups or the cheesier stuff that he's actually really good at. Most people are just exploiting the same 2 or 3 things, and that's why he's in the severely dumb category. Then we have Frost, and here's where things get interesting. She's not a good cameo, so you would think to win with her would require skill and thinking, but that's not what people use her for. She's for freezing people, and that's it. So she's definitely in the severely dumb. I can't put her in brain dead because there is some risk to what she does. Every time you summon her, you could get punished, so she's not brain dead, but since most players use her for the same mix-ups over and over again, she's pretty dumb. Jax, okay, here's where things get interesting. You could justifiably put him in the brain dead tier because most people only use him for the unblockable. However, his backbreaker is also used all the time too, so there is some thinking required with Jax. Not a lot, but I think we're gonna put him in the severely dumb category. He's not quite brain dead, but man, he's really close. Kano, brain dead category. Let's be real, everyone's just playing Kano for the knives. He's essentially the new striker. He keeps you safe on block, and even the Kano ball can actually keep you safe on block too, or even give you guaranteed damage on throw. Even if the opponent breaks the throw, they'll still get hit by Kano. So yeah, this guy's pretty brain dead because it's the same 2 moves over and over again, but honestly, it's usually just the knife move. Striker, oh boy, autopilot tier, 100%. Before all the nerfs, he would have been in brain dead, but now he requires a bit more timing and thinking, but let's be real, it's not a ton of thinking. People want him for the cheap mix-ups that I'm pretty sure are safe and unreactable, so already that's pretty cheap, but let's be honest, it's the grenade toss. Everyone's using Striker for the grenade toss, and it's always in the same situation, so autopilot, 100%. Sector, you're going in the barely thinking category. This guy does require some skill to actually get wins with, and you have to think about which move to use in this situation. That said, he's not super complicated, so he's not going in the not brain dead tier because it is the same 2 or 3 moves getting used, but you do have to think about when to use them because you could be punished if you make a big mistake. Shujinko, not brain dead, easily the most complicated cameo character in the entire game. There's so much studying required for this character, and NetherRealm keeps giving him new moves, so he's an encyclopedia of knowledge that must be studied. Sonya Blade, autopilot. She is used for pressure, and she is used for more damage. That's the 2 reasons to use her, and it's very clear when to use those 2 tools. She also has a mix-up as well, but it's not that great for combo extension, so not a great tool. Most players use her for pressure and frame advantage, or a bit of extra damage in a combo. Shang Tsung, not brain dead. This character is actually hard. A very big move list. When the game first came out, he would have been in the brain dead tier, because it was the same fireball spamming over and over again, right? But now, that doesn't work anymore. Players have learned how to get around it quite easily, which means a Shang Tsung player has to think now and constantly switch between the different forms to keep the opponent guessing, because otherwise he doesn't even have a mix-up. Omni-Man, barely thinking. This guy is safe on a lot of stuff if played correctly and utilizing the Cameo assist. He gets decent damage, he can counter zone really well, he's not weak in any area, but he does require some brain function, so barely thinking. Quan Chi, this character is interesting because I could put him in the autopilot based on how people are playing him lately. They summon the skeleton cage, they summon the portal to push you away, then summon the other portal to give themselves armor and meter, and then just pressure you. So he is kind of autopilot. However, in order to make use of any of this, you must have really good skill with your Cameo, so not Braindead. Peacemaker, barely thinking. I don't even feel the need to justify this, I think we all agree. Ermac, not Braindead. I don't feel a need to justify, I think we all agree. Homelander, autopilot, 100%. I'm not sure exactly where to put him right now, but he's definitely autopilot. Thankfully he got nerfed, but there's still tons of bugs that need fixing, and that makes him very weird, but when people play Homelander, it's the same two things over and over again. Takeda, barely thinking, but at the very front kind of, because he requires a bit more brain function than other characters in this tier. He's actually a low tier character himself, and because he's so slow, you do have to think about which move to use every time or you might get blown up. Unlike some other characters where it's like, oh, the same move over and over again. Not Takeda. You actually must think which moves you use. Tremor, okay, here's where things get interesting. Before his buffs, I would have put him in not Braindead, but now he recharges as fast as Chameleon, which means he's gonna be used just to be safe on block and for the same cheesy mix-ups over and over again. So he's going in the autopilot tier, 110%. And then for Chameleon, it might be the same thing because you would think autopilot, but she has a timer and you must actually pay attention to where she is, so it requires some thinking. I'll put her in the barely thinking tier at the very front. You can't call her severely dumb because a dumb player can't actually make a good use of Chameleon. There's got to be some thinking, but that said, I'm not sure she belongs in the not brain dead tier because it is the same 2 or 3 things being exploited all the time. Janet Cage, here's where things get interesting. On paper, Janet Cage is the most complicated Cameo in the game. Here's the issue though, players aren't using that full utility. Instead, it's the same move over and over again. It's the jump punch, because you want to combo off a throw or you want to combo off special moves that normally would not combo. That's why everybody uses this character. So as a result, is she brain dead or is she just in severely dumb? I'm gonna say actually she's in the autopilot category, I think, because everyone plays her with the exact same intent. Movado, you're going in the barely thinking tier, probably behind Chameleon or in front of actually. This character does require some knowledge in order to use correctly, and I can't put him in the autopilot tier because the recovery time on his moves is actually quite punishing, so you do have to pick and choose when you use him wisely, so I'll put him in barely thinking. Farah, brain dead, brain dead, brain dead. I love this character. I'm so happy she's back, but let's be real, safe overhead. The low is punishable, but only up close, and you can summon her at any point during the combo to keep things going. Yeah, she is extremely brain dead. Oh, the pain in game is armored too, so like no risk. This character was made for beginners. Are you kidding me? Oh wow, and we're actually done now. Fantastic. Real quick. There we go, now they're arranged from left to right. And good news, there is no trap at the end of the video. That was just a test. So if you watched the full video, then you passed. If you skipped to the end, then you failed. Originally, I was gonna put something wild in the video, but it just didn't fit with the tone. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like down below. It helps the channel out a ton. And also let me know your thoughts on this tier list and what your thoughts are on the characters as well. Who do you think is brain dead and who do you think requires some actual thinking? Make sure to let me know down below because, like I say in all my videos, I truly enjoy reading each and every comment, so grab that keyboard and make your voices heard. And afterwards, make sure you finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell so you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.